Welcome to JustStarTrek.com. I'm Angelos, and today I'm joined with my favourite red shirt, Paddy.
Live long and prosper.
It's a special day today because it is Bill Shatner's 87th birthday, so happy birthday, Bill, and if you're watching this, and I hope you are, you're a living legend. So today's video...
Hope you have lots of cake.
So today's video is about our favourite captains.
And of course, you've met Bill, haven't you?
Well,
Sir Shatner.
Sir Shatner, my hero.
Yeah.
I met him for a massive 10 seconds, stood behind him, thanked him for being a great hero of mine, and he thanked me for being a great fan. We had our photo taken together, and that was it.
I've seen the photograph. It's a great photograph. It's on the bridge of the Enterprise.
It's on the bridge. Can you imagine? They rebuilt it just for that. Incredible. So on the theme of captains then, Paddy, let's run through our thoughts, pros and cons of every captain, and then we can put out who our favourites are at the very end. So, the first, Captain Kirk. What do you think of that legend?
Well, he seemed to spend most of his time trying to expand Earth, his Earth seed throughout the galaxy. I know we terraform planets, but he seemed to be doing it in a different fashion. Again, I think he set the standard, didn't he?
Yeah.
Like any character in the first series, anyone who came along afterwards, that's the standard you had to reach. You know, whether it was the doctor or the engineer. I like engineers, by the way. I'm one. And no doubt we'll get round to Scotty at some point. But it's he was a swashbuckling captain, wasn't he? He was.
Yeah.
He really was the sort of the wagon train to the stars, the sort of the guns.
The John Wayne of
Yeah.
the space.
Yeah.
That's who he is, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember seeing him when I was a kid and just going, wow, who the hell is this guy? You know, what a strong, leading captain. Didn't take crap from anyone. He'll fire his phasers first, give them a good punch, and then seduce the ladies.
That's a very American sort of all guns blazing, blue on blue, or blue on green if it's a Gorn, obviously.
Yeah. And one thing with some of the episodes is that whenever they used to beam down, so he was always at the front, always beaming down first. Tended to lose his phase and communicator a lot though, didn't he?
Yes, he did, but he never said, beam me up, Scotty.
No.
It's very important to remember that.
Yeah.
He said, beam me up, Mr. Scott, or Mr. Scott ready to beam up, but he never said that.
Yeah.
Yes, he was very swashbuckling. He was very leader from the front, which I guess is what you'd expect from a character from that era of history, when the TV series was made, as opposed to him in the future. And the Americans like their leaders to lead.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bill Shatner, he was Kirk, really. I mean, he made that character. If you compare him to Pike, who was played before, he was a very quiet, introverted person, whereas Bill Shatner just took control straight away, and you can just tell his charisma was there from day one.
Yeah, I think there was always a bit of a twinkle in his eye, particularly with the sort of the Spock, Bones, McCoy sort of interaction. He sort of wound them both up, really, didn't he? And there was always sort of a nice smile at the end when they had a bit of a go at each other. So yes, I think he was a captain of his time in terms of when the film was made. Whether when we obviously do go out in the stars, whether captains would be like that, I doubt it very much. But yes, he set the standard, so that's who we have to compare the other captains to.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Absolutely. So moving on, Captain Picard.
Well, Jean-Luc, French, obviously, from a great actor, an actor from the Shakespearean Company. Brilliant. First couple of seasons, again, like we've said before, by Next Generation, pretty dodgy, and the outfits were awful, and the terminology was terrible. But I think he really grew into that and was a very, very, very strong captain. And played it with authority. Wasn't allowed to go on all the away missions like Kirk was. But I felt that he was very good, particularly when we got into the Borg episodes. And obviously dealing with Data and his empathy for people. I feel he was a very strong captain. I mean, what do you think were his strengths and weaknesses?
Leadership, having great command and authority, even when all of their minds got wiped in that episode where that agent infiltrated the Enterprise crew and the computer banks had been wiped. He still, even though he didn't know he was a captain and leader, he still embodied those characteristics from day one. So he had it within him. And you would follow him into any fight because you knew that he was a good diplomat, but he also would fight when necessary. I see him almost as a role model when it comes to conflict resolution. Sitting down, debating it, and using logic as well as understanding the other side. A very well written character, but also you have to give full credit to Patrick Stewart for playing him so convincingly well. He was the captain of that ship. He was the captain of that crew. And he's been a great ambassador for Star Trek, and then he's gone on to all his other roles with X-Men and everything else. But you can tell he loves being part of the Star Trek family. He appreciates his place in history. Whereas Bill Shatner perhaps didn't in the beginning. Patrick really did love Star Trek, and I think...
I think if I'd been a crewman on the Enterprise and I was called to the captain's ready room, I would be very careful.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I can use the word shitting myself, but I'd be crapping my pants basically going out thinking, because the way he looked, the sternness of his face,
Yeah.
You didn't know whether you were going to get a bollocking or whether you were going to get told, congratulations.
Yeah.
And he was very good at picking up on people's insecurities and dealing with that. I mean, I remember the episode where the young ensign who had been involved in the incident with Wesley at the academy, he was basically giving her a very, very, very hard time.
Yeah.
And she went to his ready room to basically have it out with him. And he told her, I was just testing you. And he had a special mission for her to do that sadly resulted in her dying.
Yeah.
So I think, he knew the risk that she was taking, but he just wanted to make sure she was ready. And I think that's a sign of a good captain.
Absolutely.
Sometimes people are expendable to, for the greater good. But he was affected by that too.
And going back on that Ensign Crusher, when he hid the truth about the incident that got the
flight school,
at the academy, and he wouldn't tell the truth, or he withheld it, and Picard gave him the biggest bollocking ever, and that great speech, the historical truth, or you have the duty to the scientific truth, and you don't deserve to wear that uniform. And who the hell wants to be spoken to like that, especially by your mentor, almost like a surrogate father to Wesley Crusher, and luckily he did the right thing at the end. But you wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of Captain Picard's wrath, let's put it that way, but equally he can inspire you to do great things. And then moving on to Captain Sisko.
Well, the first black captain, obviously.
Correction, Paddy. We had the first black captain in Star Trek 4.
Well, I mean in terms of the series.
Oh, right, yeah. Sorry.
I like Sisko. I thought he was really good. Of course, he's got a chip on his shoulder from, was it Wolf 359, which he blames Picard for, the death of his wife. So, but I think probably over the season, he comes to realise that being in command means you sometimes have to make tough decisions. But I liked him very much. I thought he interacted well with his staff. Of course, he went off and did a few things as well. No, I liked him. I thought he was a good rounded character.
Yeah.
And of course, he had a son there, so he was a single father, and that had an impact on his role. But of course, it wasn't a starship, was it?
No.
So, how do you feel that difference in the dynamic between being on a starship, which the other captains have been, and he's on a space station?
Well, it was a very interesting choice they made, going to a static station. And originally he was a commander, wasn't he, for a couple of seasons. And I think that's a rubbish choice. He should have been captain from day one, but that's neither here or there. But he had to deal with a lot of crap, a lot of conflict on the station because he couldn't find it elsewhere. And then when the Jem'Hadar popped up and you had all of that conflict, that's when he really grew into being the captain. And then he shed his hair and he grew a goatee. And then he became Power Sisko, as far, Sisko 2.0. And then he was formidable. And then you give him a warship like the Defiant, he was just out there kicking ass. Do you remember the episode with Commander Eddington?
Yeah.
Where he got betrayed by him? And he basically lost his shit. He was on the bridge shouting at him. He couldn't believe he'd been betrayed by this guy he trusted. And then he did some pretty radical things. But Sisko is almost like a hybrid between Kirk and Picard. A little bit more gung-ho than Picard, but not quite all the way to Kirk. And I liked this guy. And I like the fact that he would just sit on the bridge in his captain's chair, and he would just watch and be cool and calm. And I really like that about it. Great. Avery Brooks did an amazing job, and he effectively commanded his crew, the actors, off screen as well. He had a great presence, and I hope we get to see him again soon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that certainly was an interesting concept, but I think, to have a static space station, they approached it in a different way with more characters, and obviously the conflict between the Cardassians and the Ferengi and all that interaction, and Quark, and I thought it was brilliant season. I thought he did fantastically well. So.
Janeway.
Well, in the first female captain in chronological order, she was very severe at the start, wasn't she? The hair. And of course, like a lot of Star Trek series, she wasn't actually first choice, was she?
No.
But I again, she was a bit more like the Kirk type captain. She wanted to get out and do things. She didn't want to be on the ship. She wanted to be down there on the planets or taking charge. And Chakotay, if she decided to do something, Chakotay, it doesn't matter what he said as first officer, she was going to do it. So yes, she was quite an interesting character. But I don't know whether. I mean, I liked her as a character. I liked what she did, but perhaps being in the Delta universe took away something from her as being a captain.
Yeah.
I don't know what you feel.
I thought she was brilliant. I really liked Janeway. In the beginning, you could tell that she was a little bit controlled by the producers behind the scenes. But once she grew into the character, that was it. She rocked that role. She was Janeway, and she commanded her crew similar to how Avery Brooks did behind the scenes with the actors. They all looked to her as if she was the captain. She went through a lot of crap. She was flung to the other side of the galaxy. She had very limited resources. She had aliens that she didn't know who she could trust, who not to trust. And then she dealt with the Borg, and although the Borg were a little bit watered down from what we're used to, she still kicked their ass. She dealt with the Maquis well, and she had to be an absolutely strong fountain of Starfleet principles. I mean, it's very easy to give up on your principles when you're 70,000 light years away. One episode where they were stuck into this black vortex and there was loads of little lost ships inside, she created a mini federation. And she was, the resources are low, the power's low, and Chakotay's going on about joining the other side and being like them and being raiders. And she was like, no, we're going to stick to our Federation principles, our Starfleet training. And she created a mini Federation, and they escaped together. And I think that was an amazing episode. And she just showed exactly what it is to be a Starfleet captain.
Obviously why she became an admiral then.
Yeah. And it's a shame we didn't see more of what happened to her afterwards, but that's a gripe of Voyager in general. Then we have Scott Bakula, who was Captain Archer.
Yeah, again, I mean, he's a great actor. He's got a great history of series to do. Again, he seemed always quite
rigid,
angst-ridden, and rigid, and of course he's got a chip on his shoulder the size of Saturn because of the way his dad was treated by the Vulcans and the Warp 5 engine program, and I don't know. I don't know whether he keeps that, but I mean, he was a strong captain, but he always seems quite. Things never quite went his way, did they? During the series, and he was always dealing with issues, and they never really had a chance to go off and explore strange new worlds and have a nice time, really.
Yeah.
So
I don't know, Paddy. Enterprise never really grew on me. I felt it was a mistake from day one to go backwards in time. Star Trek's always been about moving forwards. You could tell the writing was tired, but they had done 4 series. The writers needed a break, and I agree with franchise fatigue. But going back to the captain, because that's what we're talking about, he never grew on me. He never grew on me. I didn't feel that he really led his crew like Picard or Janeway. He was making it up as he was going along. I get that. It's still very early days in the Federation and all that. Well, it wasn't even the Federation at that point. He didn't really do much for me. Like you said, he was very rigid. He was angst-ridden. He was very reactive. He didn't have that command presence. And I feel that was maybe what was missing with Enterprise, the strong father figure that was the captain. And I felt that wasn't necessarily there in Enterprise. And the rest of the crew, they did their best. But perhaps it's poor writing, perhaps it's something else. But No, it didn't really do much for me at all, I'm afraid. But let's fast forward to Discovery. What do you think of the many captains we've had? So which one are we going to go with?
Well, we had one on the Shenzhou, and then we had another one, and then the other one on the Shenzhou came back, but it wasn't her, it was her, but somewhere else.
Yeah. Shall we stick with Lorca?
Yeah, stick with Lorca.
Okay, so what do you think of Lorca?
Well, I know you like him, so you start.
All right, fine. So Lorca and Saru are probably the only characters I really liked in the first season of Discovery. Lorca, he was a mystery in the beginning. We thought he's not like any Starfleet captain that we've ever come across because he was very dark. We were led to believe he tortured animals. He had something wonky donkey with his eyes that we later discovered was because of something else. When he got into the role, when he was doing the military exercises or when they're under attack, you could tell he was a commanding presence on the bridge, and the other guys respected him. And behind the scenes, again, he acted like the captain, with the other actors. So he, both on and off screen, he was very good. What do you think of him, Paddy?
Well, I think, spoiler alert, if you haven't actually seen the end of Discovery, he's not from this universe, is he? He's from the parallel universe. And he's obviously versed in sort of the skill of war, because that's what the Terrans seem to do all the time, go around kicking ass. And he's very good at it. So when he's fighting, that's him in his element. That's what he wants to do all the time. That's why he wants to take Discovery into Klingon space all the time and hit them and get out, because he can with the spore drive. When he's sat around twiddling his thumbs, he's not happy because that's not what he's used to. He's not a diplomat, he's a warrior.
Yeah.
And so from that point of view, he really wants to get out there and because of course he wants to get home, not that we realised that was the case. But when he gets home, again you can see he relishes the fight and he wants to try and take over. And sadly for him, it didn't quite work out.
No, but I hope we see the Prime Universe Lorca, and I hope that's the captain that they're going to pick up on Vulcan, because I would like to see more, and I think it would be a real shame if they got rid of Jason Isaacs. Just when we got used to him, they kind of pulled the rug underneath our feet.
But if it was Jason again, Isaacs again, would we be always thinking, well, the other Lorca did that, and he's doing that, and is it? Would that not just be too much, really?
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and that's what's annoying about the first. Just going off on a slight tangent. What's annoying about the first season of Discovery? We couldn't get used to our crew. Who was the crew?
Well, we had two different ships.
We had two different ships.
And a mixing up of the ships. And then when
different
the Mirror Universe came along,
yeah.
We had those characters that had died were suddenly reappeared, but as different characters on different sides.
I mean, you can follow it, but it's very confusing. You don't have time as a viewer to get used to who you're... There's no family feel of Discovery.
Oh no, the original. Well, we're getting off the captain and we're getting onto the series, which we've done before. But it wasn't a classic Star Trek family-based team. It was things were changing every episode, and there was no consistency in terms of the sort of the captain and the first officer, the doctor. It was all up in the air all the time.
Yeah, but that's another discussion. So, Paddy, who's your favourite captain and why?
Sorry, Bill. Picard.
Controversial.
Well, he is an English actor.
Yeah.
He's from the Great Britain of Northern Ireland and everything. No, I think, excluding the first two series, which I don't think any of the Next Generation were particularly great, I think you said it, he grew into a commanding character. He was respected by all, wasn't frightened to make the tough decisions. He was captured by the Borg, became Locutus of Borg. He fought against that, and he had to deal with all of that afterwards. So I think for me, and it is tough because, listening to you, I could have voted for probably 2 or 3, but I think on balance, it's Picard for me.
Okay, that's still a very good choice.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, Picard, Sisko, Janeway, very strong captains, and if it wasn't for Kirk, it would be hard to pick which one, because they all have great commanding elements, very strongly acted. But for me, it has to be Kirk, because he was the first for me when I was a kid, growing up, first there. And then the movies, it really felt like these big dramatic events that Captain Kirk was on the big screen. So for me, it's definitely Captain Kirk or Admiral Kirk, whichever one you want to go with. And perhaps we get to see him again. One more throw of the dice with Quentin Tarantino. Who knows? Who knows? But either way, Bill Shatner, happy birthday again.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Bill.
And thank you for entertaining us for, 50 odd years now.
Yeah.
You're an absolute legend. But you've heard what we've had to say. We would love to hear what your thoughts are on what we've discussed, and perhaps you can share who your favourite captain is. So please leave comments below, please click subscribe, and we will see you again on the next exciting episode. So live long and prosper.